Okay, I think we're on. Hi everybody in Facebook land. We're here at the Alpine Shop in Kirkwood. We're going to start with the first class of AR101. We're going to talk about navigation today and trekking. And I'm Emily. This is Earl behind me. And we have a class of about, well, I don't know, 17 people.
So we have 20 chairs, so we have 2 chairs. So
Yeah, awesome. So we'll just kind of do our class. We mostly just talk to our audience, but we want to record this for everybody that's here, and then for anyone who couldn't make it tonight, you have this to reference later. Watch on the trainer, put it on your headphones when you're going for a run, like, what did I learn again? Like, oh yeah. Okay, so back to here. Okay, so welcome everybody. My name is Emily. I'm one of your race directors for the Alpine Shop Castlewood 8-hour adventure race. It's actually in 2 months. Normally we do this series of classes called AR101 in November, but we thought it would work a little better if we did it in October from this year and all years forward, so that you have a month to like learn these sort of things, and then you have November to practice. So in October, every Monday in October, we'll have class here at Alpine Shop Kirkwood. They're all different, and they're all classroom sessions. And then in November, 2 Saturdays, we're going to have outdoor group training time. So that's not really formal instruction, but it's just a time for you to practice with a map, with your teammates, or by yourself if you hate your teammates by then. And it's just it's like a non-race situation where you can practice navigation and just kind of get a feel for stuff. So we'll be there, and then also this year we're partnering with St. Louis Orienteering Club to help provide some navigational assistance for those group training sessions. So come on. So we'll just have checkpoints out in the woods. We give you a map at the start. You have 4 hours to find whatever you want to find. If you want to practice going to the same checkpoint like 6 different ways, you can. If you want to go to all, like we usually have 5 to 10 checkpoints out there. If you want to do them all by foot and then go by bike, you can do that. So it's just opportunities for you to be out in the woods with a map, actually finding things called checkpoints, rather than trying to practice navigation and you're like, oh, I think I'm at this hilltop, but I'm not totally sure. I don't know. So those are our 6 opportunities for you. 4 in October inside here at Alpine Shop Kirkwood. 2 in November outside with us and St. Louis Orienteering Club. And then there's some other, St. Louis Orienteering Club has their own meets. Actually one's coming up at the end of October at Castlewood State Park, as it happens. So yeah, we're just trying to make things easy, because adventure racing can be a big challenge. There's a lot of stuff to learn, but we just want to make things accessible because we love the sport, so we want you to have a great time at our race. And then this is Tess. So she's our dog, golden retriever. She's 7 and a half. Tess the trail dog. If you want to search a hashtag, that's who she is. So yeah, you want to just maybe introduce yourself? And she burps and it's really smelly. Yeah, that was not nice. You want to just introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes, so my name is Scott Erlandson, nickname Earl. Everybody around here calls me Earl for the most part. I have been adventure racing since the early 2000s. And my first race that I did it with my uncle. But we didn't know anybody. We really had no idea what we were getting into, and we were just teamed up with 2 other random people, and we had the most amazing time ever. But when we finished, pretty much all the food was gone, all the finish line stuff was gone, and basically the race director was just like, "But no, you guys are okay." But it was like, I was hooked, even though that first experience was not amazing finish line wise. It was just so much fun. We were at a Camp Eat a Hoppy outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Both of us are from Minnesota. And so then it was probably another year before I did my next one. And then all of a sudden in 2003, I found a group of people that really fell in love with it. Everybody just was committed, and I just really got hooked at that point in time. That's how Emily and I met adventure racing. Today is our 1 month anniversary from being married.
Made it.
And we've had opportunities to travel all around the world to go do adventure racing. We were in New Zealand back in March for a 7-day race, and just a lot of fun stuff. So we want to get everybody else who's excited about it. Here we go.
Yeah. So one more time, my name is Emily. I started racing. Actually, the Castlewood Adventure Race was my very first adventure race ever. I was doing triathlons and just kind of a little burnt out of like training by myself all the time, and I also felt that triathlon was just like the athletes were like more and more specializing to particular courses, like picking their races based on the courses they knew that they were good at, and I didn't really like that. I'm like, I would rather be good at anything on any given day. And so it was still like really enjoyable, and I actually learned quite a bit from triathlon, just about like fitness and endurance and stuff. But kind of transitioning or getting the opportunity to do an adventure race, I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect for me because I get to be with a team all the time. You know, they're my friends, and I just like spending time with these people. And you just never know what the course is going to be like. Like, you can kind of guess based on the area. Like, courses in Missouri are obviously going to be different than courses in Florida. But as far as like tailoring your training to a specific course, like that's not possible because you don't know the course until the night before. In our case, you won't know the course until the night before. And then in some other races, like you don't know it until the gun goes off and then you say go. And then you get your map for the first time. So it's like, there's all, like you just have to be good at everything, or be prepared to pretend you're good at everything until it's over and then you get to go on to the next sport. So that's what I just really like about adventure racing is you just need to be ready for anything. You get to be with your teammates the whole time, and you just get to battle through stuff that it's hard. Like, I mean, so many times during adventure races we'll be bushwhacking through a ton of briars or a ton of mud, or like paddling on a river that has 6 inches of water, so you're in the boat, out of the boat, out of the boat. And you just do stuff that's really hard, and the teams that win those races, they're like, you know, they don't know the definition of what's hard. It's like, whatever, like, I'm with my friends, we're just going to crush this, whatever it is. So it's just really cool to see that part of the sport. So that's why I love it. A little bit about...
Well, the thing is just back to this, it's hard thing. It's hard for everyone. It's just mentally how you deal with it and how you work together as a team. And we'll get into it all on a teamwork thing, but that's the thing. It's just like, okay, we have a challenge here. How are we gonna work together? It's like life. How are we gonna work together as a team to get through this obstacle and succeed? Or it's like, oh man, it's hard, I don't want to do it, I'm scared, I'm cold, I'm miserable. Yeah, we are. But it's like, do we want to get through it, or do we want to figure out the easiest way of? And it's just like, you have to have that mindset of just like, take a step back, breathe, and reset, and say, okay, we can do this, how are we going to do it? And move forward. Because there's a lot of people that start adventure racing and don't come back because they don't want to hit the reset button, or it's just more than what you bring into it. The biggest thing is positive attitude and figure out how we're going to work together as a team to move to the next step. Not the finish line, but the next step. Because if you look at the finish line, that's a long ways out there. Whether it's a 4-hour race, a 6-hour race, an 8-hour race, 24-hour race, 7-day race. it's all different, but you just have to focus on that next step to get to the next junction in the corner or this next stop sign or whatever it is. And once you're there, then you reset again and move again. So it's baby steps.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, so we have a little agenda tonight. And if you guys have any, actually let me ask a couple questions. Has anyone in this group done an adventure race before? 2 people. Any more than 2? 3. Okay, awesome.
It's not like
Yeah. Do you want to share a little bit about your first adventure race, or?
It was this one last year.
Yes.
And
Okay.
I was pulled along by people who knew what they were doing.
Oh, perfect. So now you're going to be the puller this year.
Well, we're a team. So.
Cool.
So sure.
Okay. Cool. Have you done Castaway before?
I have. My first one was a couple of years ago, and my teammates all knew the stuff about the maps and mapping out the points, and that's what I don't know, so I'd really like to learn that because I have a new teammate this year.
Okay. Perfect. Great. Okay, so we're gonna tailor things to first-time adventure racers. I think we've got the appropriate crowd. This is awesome. Thank you for coming. So if you have any questions while we're kind of running through this, just raise your hand, shout it out. Don't you need to wait till the end. And kind of the goal tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about navigation, but it is impossible to teach navigation inside. It's impossible. So we're going to give you kind of some basics and what to look for on these maps and the clue sheets when you get them for the race. But you have to practice outside. And it doesn't even have to be on a topographical map. Here's something that I think people need to take more advantage of is who uses Google Maps on a daily basis? Yeah, or Apple Maps or whatever mapping app you use. That you're navigating. Okay, the computer's picking out your route for you, but the process of looking at that 2D image and then translating it into what you're seeing in 3D and understanding that 2D information versus 3D, that's the whole basis of navigating out with a map and a compass. You're looking at this 2D information on a map, you're translating it up into 3D, what you're seeing, and then you're picking out, okay, what's the best way for me to travel from A to B. So that's this bare bones concept of navigation. So kind of there's 2 different camps or different styles of how people navigate. If anyone has military background or ROTC background, you probably are familiar with a more military-based style of navigation. Also, search and rescue teams use this quite a bit, is a bearing and a pace count. So what that means is you're going to use your compass and you're going to set a bearing either based on instructions from your team or instructions on the map, or just looking at your map and picking out a straight line from A to B and then understanding what that bearing is off of north. And then you're going to count your paces, you're going to travel that specific distance, you're going to get to your next point and then reset another bearing and travel in another straight line to your next point and then reset a bearing, another straight line to your next point. So that's a great way to navigate. It's also the way that the scouts usually teach. But it's not often the most efficient way to travel overland if you're trying to go fast. I have a friend who works in search and rescue in the Pacific Northwest, and we kind of got into a little argument the other day. This is a couple years ago, because he was explaining navigating on a search and rescue team, bearing and pace count, that's all they do. And I was like, okay, if you're in an emergency and you need to get to someone fast, you need to go the fastest way. Why would you specifically, go out and back if you can travel in a straighter, more direct route to get to this person in an emergency? And he's like, well, okay, that's really important, but what's also important to those teams is directing backup to be able to find them exactly how to go. I mean, you're trying to repeat a route against a bunch of different people, a bunch of different navigational styles. That bearing and pace count is the best way to standardize route choice and actually getting from A to B out in the woods. So does have its usefulness, and I totally agree with them on that point, because if you're trying to describe a route to 50 different people, you can't say, well, first I followed the creek for 100 meters, and then I took the junction on the right, and then I found the second reentrant, and then I went up that, and I crossed the saddle, and it's like, pretty soon the route is so detailed, like you can't recreate it. So bearing and pace count, great for large team military style exercises where you need to be able to reliably communicate a route among a bunch of different people. The way that's most successful in adventure racing is more of an orienteering style of navigation, and that's using features and contour lines to understand the topography around you, selecting the best route to get from A to B, and then just kind of following the land to get from where you are to your goal. So kind of a description with that, kind of what I just described, like, okay, if I need to get from A to B, and I know that it's both, I'm trying to get from one creek to the other, and there's a very large spur in the middle, okay, what's the physically the easiest way I can get from this low point of land to this next low point of land with this huge hill in the middle? Do I go like kind of a long way around, but there's a creek bed that follows all the way around, and I'm going to stay at a similar elevation the whole time? I need to be more physically fit to execute that. So that's a question that we ask almost every checkpoint in adventure racing. Okay, how do I get to this next checkpoint in the easiest way for my team? Another example if you're in a mountain biking leg, is if you have some people who are not confident on single track. Maybe it's like a really rocky piece of single track, and it's very short, but you know that your people are going to not want to ride all of that. They might want to walk, get off their bike, walk through the difficult section, get back on. Like, that's kind of not the fastest way to go. So you might look for an easier road option to get from A to B to kind of select your route from those 2 points. So it's all about considering what's best for your team. Sometimes if you have some great swimmers, you might want to. We don't have swimming in our race because it's in December, but you might choose to swim across a lake. To get a checkpoint, that might be the fastest way for your team to swim. And like another team, they're like, we sink like rocks. We're gonna run around, So it's just weighing the circumstances versus what your team is good at. So it's just really important to get together. If you have the opportunity to come train with us in November, that's great. So you get to learn the strengths and weaknesses of your team. But at least on Friday night, just chit chat with people. Like, hey, how do you feel about rocks on your trail when we're biking? Like, do you want to stop and get off and walk your bike, which is fine, just want to know, or you're like, yeah, like, give me some drops and jumps and I'll be fine, like, I brought my full face helmet, it's great. So like, you just need to understand what your team is capable of. Okay, so couple things that everyone needs to look for in a map. I have a bunch of let's see, I'm going to pass out these. These were actually left over from the first race that we directed, the 2015 race. We had a little problem with our maps that year. I don't think there's enough for everyone, but if we could go like one every other. So in 2015 was the first year that we directed the Castlewood Adventure Race, and our mapping company kind of, well, to be fair, we did not give them a whole lot of time to ship these maps to us, but they screwed up the shipping, so they actually ended up sending us 2 sets of maps. Enough? Almost? Okay, good. So we have a... Okay, so we have a bunch of these extra maps, and now you're the proud owners of the last of our extra maps, so congratulations. So the first things that you need to look at when you pick up one of these race maps. Can anyone looking at that map tell me what the scale of the map is? Yes.
1.5.
Yes. Awesome. What does that mean, the scale of a map?
The size of the grid squares.
Like in real life, what does that mean?
Oh, what does it mean to scale? It's just the size of the map of the terrain, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. So like 1 inch on the map is going to be 24,000 inches in real life. Yeah, that's okay. I just always have to relate it back to like something numerically related. Engineering degree, like don't hold it against me, please. So yeah, you want to look at the scale of the map. That gives you an idea of how long you're going to be traveling in between two features. So something that's really helpful, I see you doing it already. Yeah, will you describe what you just did?
Oh, there's a little, actually can't even think what it's called. Just under the scale is a physical scale to give you an idea of what is a half a mile. And it almost looks like each square is about a half a mile square.
Yes. Yeah, perfect. So I'll just show you on this map, it's a little different. This one says scale 1 to 10. So like this map is going to be more blown up or more zoomed in than a 1 to 24,000 map. So that's just kind of, if you're comparing two different maps, this right here is 1 kilometer on a 1 to 10,000 map. Can you see it on the screen right there? But then the 1 to 24,000 map, the kilometer is like this big. So you can just understand like, okay, if you're on a 1 to 10 and you went 1K, you went this long versus, you have a lot more Ks to fit in on a 1 to 24,000 map. So just to kind of understand what you're dealing with, that'll help you if you're using like a watch. Some people use a watch to help judge how much distance they've traveled. So like you understand like, okay, I can run a 10-minute mile, so a kilometer is going to take me 6 minutes. So now I get to, time myself for 6 minutes, then I know I've gone 0.6 of a mile. So, okay, scale, super good. So we've got the scale 1 to 10,000 or 1 to 24,000, and there's a little scale bar that just helps you kind of have that judgment right there. So if you haven't internalized 1 to 24 or 1 to 10, you can kind of understand that. Okay, the next thing that's important to understand is the year that it was made. And by it, I mean like the background information, the contour lines. So can anyone tell me on the big map?
The last was 93.
Yep.
Eureka.
I actually don't know these answers.
There's a
so.
few of them.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, if you're looking at, it's kind of small, sorry for people who are small, but so we've got some date information for each quadrant of the map. So we've got 93, what are some of the other years down there?
74 and 82.
74, 82. So that's really helpful to understand, okay, this map was made in the 80s. Like, maybe some longer, the map was made before some of you were born. Maybe it was made before I was born, I don't know. But just to understand what's reasonable to see out in real life. Like notably in this map you can see where Six Flags is at, all the little purple buildings. And you can kind of see next to it is the Holiday Inn for Six Flags. It's right off of 44.
Okay.
But like, if you guys have been to the Holiday Inn recently, like it's much bigger than what's shown on the map. So just kind of calibrating that in your mind. And so if you're using like as a kind of like a marker to yourself, like, okay, I need to turn at this hotel, and you get to the hotel and it's like a gigantor hotel, and on the map it's just this little building. You're like, oh well, it's a pretty reasonable assumption that they've doubled in size in 30 years. Like, okay, I can see that. So just understanding when the map was made is just a really useful piece of information. Next up is contour interval. This is huge. Can anyone tell me the contour interval for this map? You can guess. It's okay to be wrong.
50.
50 what? It's kind of close to the years.
What
Oh,
is the
10
contour
foot.
interval? Can we just back up even
Oh, great, yes, thank you.
I have no idea what I'm doing.
10 foot difference.
Okay, hold up. Yeah, so, contour interval, 10 foot.
Yeah.
Great question. What's a contour? I don't know. Let's talk about that. So contours are like the main features of a topographical map. All of these brown squiggles that go everywhere, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about contour lines. Can anyone describe to me what a contour line is? Just curious? Yeah.
Contour lines basically just tells you elevation beam on the map. The farther apart they are, the flatter it is, the more pushed together they are, the steeper.
Yep. So a contour line is linking points of constant elevation. So if there was a contour line to describe this store, there would just be one line because we're not going up and down in elevation. We're just at a constant elevation in this whole store. What's your name?
Drew.
Drew. So as Drew said, when the contour lines are far apart, what does that mean? It's flat, yeah. So it takes a long time to change elevation. When they're closer together, that means they're steep. Yep. Because every time you cross a contour line, you're changing elevation. Every time you follow a contour line, if they existed in real life, you would never change elevation. You just kind of weave constantly in and out of the creeks, always at the same elevation. So when we say contour interval, that means the elevation difference between each contour line on the map is 10 feet. So that can help you when you're trying to understand, like, okay, it looks like there's a hill in front of me, but how big is that really? So if you want to, like, let's go back to the Six Flags example because it's right on your map. If you guys have ridden bikes from Six Flags up to the top of Greensfelder where the visitor center is, that's a big hill. And if you really wanted to, you could count all of those contour lines. Let's say there's, I don't know if anyone wants to guess real quick how many there are. You need to like your microscopes out, they're really small. Say it again?
150 feet.
150 feet? Yeah, plus or minus, maybe a little more. It feels like
Depends on where
more.
you're going, I guess.
Yeah, feels like more when I'm riding up it. But yeah, so then you can kind of judge like, okay, this is a 150-foot hill. Maybe a hill with only 2 contour lines, that would only be a 20-foot hill. So you can kind of judge what the terrain is going to do and judge how physical it is between 2 different routes. Okay, the colors. Let's start with purple, because we kind of talked about it a little bit. Things that are in purple are what? Structures, yep. Also I-44 is on there in purple, right?
Gravel pits.
Man-made objects, yeah. So things that Mother Nature didn't put there, purple. What else we got? Some green. What do you think the green is? I heard it.
Trees, woods.
Trees, yep. Green is trees, woods, anything that's would be considered forested. And then the other major color is white. So what would that be? Open, yeah. No trees, probably like a meadow, maybe little baby deers running around, I don't know. So those are kind of the 3, I guess, and there's blue too. What would blue be? Water, yeah. So those are the 3 main colors. So, and these are all for USGS maps, which we are usually use for our race maps. So that can kind of help you too. If a route is all in white, that means it's probably going to be open. Do you think it's easier to run across a meadow or across a patch of woods? A meadow, yeah. So just kind of consider that when you're planning too. Okay, here's a route that takes me, maybe a little bit longer, but it's all in white. So I can kind of understand, like, it might be a little bit easier versus running in the woods. So that's just kind of helping you, again, visualize what you should be seeing when you look at this 2D information. We actually did put on this map some other things that are also in blue. What are those? Trails, yes. So we do our best. We don't just give you the latest trail map that's out there. Like, we go out, we verify all these trails. If there's like, I don't want to say this. There's an old trail that's like not worth using, we're not going to put it on your map to like tempt you to, use a bad trail. Like, we're not trying to trick you with our maps. Like, we're trying to give you the absolute best information so that you can make your best choices. So we go out there and we verify all these trails. So if you see a trail on the map, it's there, we've ridden it or walked on it. And then we try to help you differentiate between what's single track and then what's paved trails. Like this one is from 2017, and I'll just kind of hold it up here. So we've got the blue trails on the side. These are all single track. You can tell by the key up here, dirt or crushed rock trail. And then the black line is a paved trail. So just to kind of help you, like, okay, my team, we want to really maximize paved trails versus single track. Like, then you can have that information to understand. And we don't have a ton of out-of-town teams, but we have some, and we just want to make sure that the local teams with local knowledge, like, I mean, obviously if you have it, it's an advantage, but we don't want to, like, always have the local teams win just because they know the secret shortcut, Like, if there's a secret shortcut, we're going to put it on the map so that everyone knows about it. At least all the ones that we know. Like, I'm sure there's some that we don't know, but...
Well, I know there is. I mean, every year we design a course, and all of a sudden it's like, we didn't expect anybody to do that. It's like, good choice or not good choice, but it's just like, I mean, we try to do the best we can to make it where it's kind of equal playing field for everybody, but there's also only so much we can do.
Right, yeah.
And so we really want to think outside the box. As long as it's in the rules, we're okay with that.
So on this USGS course map,
Mm-hmm.
there's roads in black, and some of the roads have dotted lines or dashed lines, and some of the roads have solid lines.
Yes. Great question. Does anyone think they know the answer? We got some... Wait, and back first.
Railroads?
There's some railroads on there, but I think those are in...
Railroads have like a hash.
Yep.
pattern.
Yeah, there's the railroads in black. You're talking about there's some dashed lines
Yes.
too.
So there's some double line roads. Some of them are solid lines,
Mm-hmm.
and then eventually it goes to like dash lines occasionally.
Yes.
They're like paved to gravel.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And these can be really. So what we're describing is the roads that are like major interstates. Those are in purple, right? There's some other roads that are on these maps that are in black that have a double solid line that describe the road, and then sometimes they turn into double dashed lines that describe the road. So, like we kind of hypothesized, the double solid lines are usually a paved road, something that's pretty established. But then when you get to the double dashed lines, that turns into like a Jeep road, 2-track, farmer's field road. Sometimes they've grown over since the map was made, so they're just like an old road bed that's useless. We've been each...
Yeah, I mean, the first time I started adventure racing, my navigator's like, yeah, we're looking for a road. We're out in the middle of the woods, and there's nothing. But it was a road 100 years ago. So it's still on a USGS map as a road. And if you look through the forest, you can see that, yes, there was a 2-track buggy track that went through here. And then you'll see abandoned cars or washing machines or whatever down a deeper entrance. So it was like, okay, yes. So a road to me was really defined completely different when I started adventure racing. That it's like, it could be just a 2-track that's completely overgrown, but you can actually walk down it and you can see that it was a road at one time. So you won't get a lot of exposure. You'll see some of that here, but not a lot of it. But when you get out into bigger
Berryman area.
Yeah, like the Berryman area or down the Ozarks, it's like used to be roads and there used to be houses. And when you see a man-made object that was a house at one point in time, basically it might be 2 foundation walls, but still not a man-made object. So.
Okay. Then the last thing I just want to point out is like the anatomy of a map. We just talked a little bit about this briefly. There's a grid over the entire map. Let me use this one. So you guys can kind of see, let's see what color is it. It's in this like blue color. So if you see around the perimeter of the map, there's these blue 6-digit or 7-digit numbers. There's 6-digit along the horizontal axis and 7-digit on the vertical. And then from each of those blue numbers, there's a blue line that kind of creates a grid all over the map. They didn't know what those are? Map nerd alert? Anyone know?
Longitude, latitude?
Close.
The black or longitude and latitude?
Yeah,
not
the black. Yeah, the black are Latin long. The blue numbers are a UTM grid, which is Universal Transverse Mercator Mapping System. So when you're playing Jeopardy some point, like you'll probably need to know that. But it's basically a grid system that helps, adjust for the fact that the globe is round and it's really hard to accurately represent it on a flat map, but we do our best. So those numbers help define locations on the map for reference. So you can't always tell people on the map, yeah, just go look by the Six Flags, like that's where I'll be. Well, if they don't know what Six Flags is and they've never been to Missouri, like they're not really going to figure that out. But if you can tell them, well, we're at, let's see, Easting 70200, right? Because it's the 702,000 line at the top. And then it's the 4265 northing on the other side. You can kind of use an XY reference and figure out where this magical place called Six Flags is. So this is actually really important because the night before the race, we're going to give you a map that's blank. I mean, it has the map on it. Just a piece of paper. Right, just a piece of paper.
Yeah, you just draw
Good
it.
luck, newbies. You'll be fine. So we'll give you the map just like this, just like you're holding, and then we'll give you a clue sheet next to it that has all of your checkpoints for the race. And then each checkpoint is going to have a UTM coordinate so that you, lucky people, get to map your course onto the map that you'll carry for the event. So it's a little bit of extra work, but we do it Friday night so that you guys can do it off the clock. Like if you need to reference YouTube in the middle, we post like some YouTube videos if you need help. But it's basically X and Y, like classic geometry. Like you go over X amount, up Y amount, and draw a little circle for each checkpoint. That just helps us as race directors. We could do pre-printed maps with all the checkpoints on there, but then like the year that we actually did this race, we had really high water on the Merrimack, and we almost had to change the whole course at the last minute because of the water. So it just allows us maximum flexibility right up until the night, or like about lunchtime on Friday, to make any changes we need to make before we hand these out. So it's kind of a pain, and some people really hate UTM plotting, but we just try to make it as painless as possible. You can do it with pizza and a beer, just take your time. And then we have, then you'll have your course the night before, so you can kind of tell where you're going. And so basically what you're going to do with the UTM, let's see if I can explain this. So you'll get a northing and an easting. So your easting is your XY, like east-west, and then your northing is your, I said that wrong. Your easting is your x-axis. Your northing is your y-axis. So we'll give you a certain amount that you need to go x across, and a certain amount that you need to go y up, and then you put a little circle or a dot in a circle, and then poof, there's checkpoint number 1, and then you do it again for checkpoint number 2, and we usually have 30 to 40 checkpoints for the race. So, yes.
The numbers, like in the
UTM, yep.
when we get those numbers, are there going to be like numbers in between that? Because that's a big difference.
How accurate
Like,
is it
it
gonna
can be like way off.
Yes, great question. So you're, no, that's like really, really astute. So we'll give you the point, and you'll be able to map it to the nearest, I think 10 meters. We could give you to the nearest meter, but with human error, it's like, we can't map it that well, you guys can't map it that well, it's just a waste of time. So we give you to the nearest 10. So then you'll be able to put your dot right on the circle. And then we also hang our checkpoint so that if you're within 10 meters of it, you're going to see it. Like, there's no, you have to, you know, hit an immunity idol that you have to dig for.
What you'll be looking for.
Yeah. Okay, so those are some like basic anatomy of a map. Questions on that before we go next? Good?
Sorry?
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm the total newbie on
That's
this.
fine. That's great.
These contour lines are all like wavy.
Yes.
Like, what does it mean when it waves like this?
Yes.
So, I don't know.
Yes. Okay. Great.
Now you
question.
told me when they're far apart, that's flatter, and when they're more near, it's steeper.
Yes.
Okay, but I don't know.
She's
Why,
talking like when
why
it's
are
a
they all
ravine
squiggly?
or if it's
Yeah,
a river.
totally.
This squiggly part.
Okay. So this is time for some audience participation. Make a fist like this, if you would. And then pretend that this is a little piece of Missouri terrain. So this is a ridge top with some little, like each knuckle is like a little hilltop. And then you've kind of got your fingers coming down are actually like, we call them spurs. We actually talk about land like a body part almost. So it's like a nose of land coming off a hilltop is what a spur is. So, you know, when we're out in the woods and trying to get somewhere, we often say, like, just go down the center of the nose, or just go down the nose and then kind of drift off to the left or right, or whatever it is. So that's what we're talking about here is this spur. Okay, so to get to your question about contour lines. Remember when we said that a contour line is a continuous point of elevation? So, actually, this is, you got that pen around? Okay,
Yeah, the line the other day, so I
Okay.
got scolded too.
Okay, so if I had to draw like a contour line on my hand, I would need to be keeping my pen at the same exact elevation as I went across here. So I'm kind of doing my best here. This is more or less the same elevation. So see how it kind of is wiggling across, but that's always, I mean, just pretend it's all the same elevation. Like if you were walking on this line, you would never really going to be up or down. You'd just be on the side hill. So then when you flatten that out, it kind of squiggles. So this part here, you can kind of visualize. This part here is where if there's a rainstorm up on this hilltop, the water would collect in this low little gully, a ravine, a reentrant. We kind of, this is an adventure racing word or an orienteering word, reentrant. That means a little place where water likes to go. So water would fall down here, come into this low spot, and just follow this down until it becomes a creek. So where I'm getting at is this contour line, when it makes this U shape, it's pointing uphill in a reentrant. So if you can kind of go from the 2D dimensional to the 3D, this U shape here is going to be pointing uphill in a lower piece of land. Now where the mind-bending part of this happens is you also have this other U shape that points to a spur that points downhill. So the trick is, what I always use is hilltops are circles. Because it's, you know, if you're at a hilltop, there's going to be a constant point of elevation all the way around you. So that's a closed contour line. So you know that's a high point, and then you can kind of judge from those high points which way when you're going down where the spurs are, and then where the reentrants are, where the creeks are going to form. Does that kind of start to make sense? Not quite there.
I got the circle at the top.
Okay. Yeah.
And the lowest point has the lines.
Everyone's like, I'm not on your team.
Oh, yeah. So this, I mean, don't worry. It takes a long time to kind of help visualize all this stuff. But like maybe lunch break tomorrow, grab a pen, like do some drawing on your hands. Just kind of play with this, like, okay, here's my 3D. I got my hilltops, which are circles. We've got the little ridge in between them. And then when I flatten that out like a 2D map, what does that look like? Well, I've got my 4 little circles, and then I've got this wavy contour line that's pointing to what's a spur and what's a re-entrant or creek. Clear as mud. Total. Yeah. Good for now.
Which one is the 2 point upward?
So when the so creeks are going to be flowing downhill, and the contour line creates a U, and if it's really steep, it creates a V shape, pointing uphill. So like here, let's find a hilltop. Yeah, big hilltop there. So this is going to be a big spur, kind of rolling around, and then see how this kind of is a U shape here.
Yeah.
So that's going to be kind of where the water falls and kind of flows in here. Oh, there's this.
Okay, cool.
Here's another really exciting. Keep up the learning.
I have a question.
Yes.
When you guys are giving points, are you giving like, what kind, are you giving Greek coordinates, or is it compass stuff, or is it more simple? Anything like that?
Yeah, great question. So, let's use this. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 of those.
That's what this is, like a whole bunch. Yeah?
Okay, so what we just handed out, so the question was, like, what's it gonna be? Like, what are these so-called checkpoints? Like, what am I looking for? So this is an example of a pre-plotted map that we handed out in 2017. And the reason we did this was teams arrived at checkpoint 24, which is over here. It's at Sherman Beach, if anyone's familiar with that area. And we didn't want them to know about any of these other checkpoints until they got to 24. It was like a surprise. So that's, you know, that's what also happens in adventure racing is you show up at a spot, it's like, surprise! Here's another 3 miles that you get to go do. Right. You can always skip these, but, you know, it's like I said, or like Earl said, getting the team, you know, positive attitude, let's just figure things out and get it done. So anyway, you can kind of see how our checkpoints are located. These ones are all at trail junctions. Let's see, yeah, 40, 41, 42, 39. They're all trail junctions. So they're features that you can actually go to and know that you're there. We're not going to direct you out to the middle of a flat field and say, go find a stump that's hard to see. Like, we don't do that.
There's people that do that, and it's not, it kind of takes the fun out of it. But, you know, the thing is we want to have an identifying feature to make it to where it's like variable. You know, trail junction, man-made object, creek crossing, you know, and so we'll give you a point. With that point, we'll also give you a clue. So it's kind of like, okay, we plotted this. If it says creek crossing, and you plotted it on a hilltop, 2 things happen. A, you plotted it wrong, or B, we gave you the wrong coordinates. We try to make sure we don't do that. But, you know, so it's just kind of like one of those things that you can double check yourself is, okay, it shows a bridge or whatever it is. If you plotted it on that feature, then you're like, I think we got this. But if it's not plotting to the feature that's the clue, then we might want to replot it.
And then one more thing, we also have plotted maps on the morning of the race before the start where you can bring your own map and check it. So Like, we're really trying to make this as painless as possible.
Yeah, I was
So
like, is it gonna be like an 8-digit grid?
Right.
The other thing is we'll have packet pickup the night before here from like 4 to 8. We're normally here till 8 or 9 o'clock, and so it's like, if you want to plot in the store, you can. If you want to go to one of the local restaurants, get the maps out, or go to a friend's house and get them all mapped out. If you run into anything, just call us. You'll have our numbers and say, hey, we're doing this. It doesn't seem right. And you're like, yeah, it is, or no, it's not.
Try again.
And sometimes we have other people that call us and they're like, hey, is this what you really meant? And you're like, oh, good catch. So then if we do make a mistake, we can throw it out on Facebook or through the web, through the Facebook,
Or the race
the race email saying, hey, correction, this is what we need to do. So that social media thing and emails kind of help correct those. Otherwise, it's like, then we'll throw it out again at the pre-race meeting in the morning just to make sure that everybody got that. We want to give you guys the best race we can. But we're not perfect.
So in addition to kind of what you see on the map, like, we have trail junctions that are circled as each different checkpoint. What's going to happen at these checkpoints? We're going to talk about the what?
That's your cue.
And now we transition.
And so this is what you'll be looking for. And each one of these punches has a different pin configuration in it. So, and then we'll give you a password. I didn't bring a passport, but basically it's a piece of Tyvek paper that it's going to be like 3 inches wide and 10 inches long or something. And each one of those will have a number on it that will correspond. So like this is checkpoint 5. So you want to make sure that this 5 goes in box 5. And then this punch needs to go in that square. So when you finish or when you get to a certain point, we say we need to see your passport, you show us your passport, and then that's our way of confirming that you went to all these different locations. Most cases, these will be tied to like a tree or the corner of a building, a bridge. Okay, let's say we're going to punch at a bridge. Sometimes it might be under the bridge deck. Sometimes it might be under the bridge. On a tree, we try to hang it so it's at least like eye level so you can see it. But we're not. Our goal is not to hide it in a bush where you have to dig underneath the bush. I'll do that.
We've done those races.
We've done those races. It's not fun. So we want to make this fun. So you get close to the area, we will hang it so that you can see it, but you need to get close to the area. So,
Yes. No, please.
So, does everyone go to the first checkpoint at the same time? Are we all like going to the same place at the same time?
It's a mystery.
it could happen either way.
Let's talk about what we did last year.
And it just, I don't remember last year.
You're up a hill.
So Earl, actually this is a good, yeah, okay, what did we do last year?
We went up a giant hill. It was huge. Like seriously, it was really, really big. And so immediately everybody was spread out depending on how well you could get up this hill.
It was the top of the hill, it's hidden valley.
And you started at the bottom.
You started at the bottom and you went to the top, and by the time you got to the top, it broke up pretty quick. Sometimes we have like mass, everybody's together, and then we have like a trekking section where there's 5 different points, and you can go to any of those 5 at any different level. Is another way. Sometimes it's just a mass start of chaos. That happens too. Normally, as a race director, you try to do something to spread the group out a little bit and try to eliminate some of the chaos. Or it's like, okay, we're going to have some chaos. So that first checkpoint might have 3 different people signing a passport or something to get you in and out, because we don't want everybody to stand in line for
15 minutes.
15 minutes to wait to go, because that's just kind of takes the fun out of it. So we'll do our best to make the start of the race, make it challenging, don't get me wrong, but we'll do logistically to make it so that it's not a line at the first couple.
One year, the year that we started at the Legends Country Club, we had kind of a road run to start, and the first checkpoint was a speed limit sign with a orienteering flag attached to it, and the teams had to write in what's the speed limit at the flag. So it's like you didn't have to stop and do anything.
You just had to remember
As long as you
that.
could remember
you just
that.
remembered that. So at some point in time, you're like, okay, we'll just write in the number 35. So that's another thing we might do, is just have something where it's like, we just need proof that you went to something, or if we decide to use a checkpoint that somebody driving by, this would look really cool in my garage. So they take it and go. So in those places, we have a lot of them locked, but there's certain places where, like, we can't control that it's there. So it might be a number on a mailbox, it might be a street intersection sign, those types of things, just so that we know that somebody's not going to take that. Because there's some certain spots that we need to move people through where we need a point to get you there, but it's a point that might not stay there, so we'll use a feature that most people aren't going to take.
What other mapping, navigational questions? Okay,
How many checkpoints should we expect? Just varied here?
what was the answer?
I thought you said 30 to 40.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, so we have 30 to 40 checkpoints. I think we own 40.
We own 40. We've had years where we have access to more where we used it, but once it gets to be over 40, it's a lot of controls for us to hang for an 8-hour race. But I would say plan on 35 to 40. Just depends on final course layout. And sometimes we need to have just a bunch kind of close together to kind of move people. Because sometimes we need control points to move people. And so that kind of determines how many we have sometimes too. Doesn't make the course any longer, but it's just different places that you're going to go past.
So I know last year her team used some sort of UTM tool.
Mm-hmm.
What's the intent of the tool?
Oh, great question. So the intent of the tool,
Where did you put all that stuff?
yeah, where did my bag go?
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
But there's nothing left in the stack.
Hey. We got pens, Post-it note, a debit card, all kinds of fun stuff here. Okay, so what's your name?
Drew.
Drew. Okay, so what Drew is asking about is this little thing called the UTM Tool. So this is something that you can buy, or I've made them like with a piece of paper in a pinch. So there's lots of different options, but this little clear plastic thing is has a bunch of different scales on it. So this one is 1 to 10,000, 1 to 15,000, 1 to 24, 1 to 25, and then 1 to 30.
They have them on sale here.
And we got them.
They're $5.95.
Yeah.
There's a lot here today, but comes Friday night before the race,
We run out.
we run out. So just pray to put this in your shopping list earlier than later.
Yeah. So what this UTM tool does is helps you measure when you plot. Because it's you could kind of make your own off of the scale that's provided at the bottom of the map, like how many is 500 meters over, 600 meters over, etc. But when we give you your point to the nearest 10 meters, sometimes it's hard to exactly measure that off the scale that the map gives you. So the UTM tool, this is the 1 to 24 grid, will give you every 10 meters all laid out right in front of you. So you can use it. Can I borrow this? Yep. You guys get to be my guinea pigs. Just these are right here. So I'm going to fold this a little bit. So if you were mapping something here at Greensfelder, and the clue sheet that you had said, let's start over here, 702, 520. So you're like, okay, I need to go to the 702 line, follow that down, and then I'm going to go 520 meters over. So you can help, this tool will help you measure exactly 520 meters over instead of kind of guessing what's halfway across, etc. So it's the same thing in the northern direction. So you're going to start at 4266, and then you need to go exactly 20 meters up. So then you can measure exactly 20 meters up instead of kind of guessing. So when I've made them in the past, like usually these are parts of your required gear. One race, something happened, like someone's zip pocket didn't get zipped.
They go missing.
They go missing all the time. So we had a race and we had to plot during the race, and our UTM tool had vanished. So if that happens, you can always just like rip a little piece of paper off and like make your own based on the scale that's on the map, and that's a UTM tool. Like you're helping yourself measure. But it's just really convenient to have this like clear, durable, standardized piece of equipment. This one's actually pretty big. There's some out there also that have like their credit card size. So they're a little smaller, but they have only 1 to 24,000 scales on them. This one has like 6 scales on it. So yes, that was a great question.
Is the UTM units in meters?
Yes.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So that grid that's overlaid on your map is in increments of 1 kilometer. So it makes it actually pretty convenient if you can, like if you're eyeballing, and you can really quickly count the squares. Like, oh, 5 squares long is 5 kilometers. Like that's a good kind of, like, you know, I know what it feels like to run 5K. I know what it feels like to bike 5K. I know what it feels like to paddle 5K. Like it's just a nice mental point, data point. Okay, we're gonna kind of transition into trekking. We're gonna try to wrap up pretty soon. But so if there's more mapping questions, we'll just stay here afterward and we can kind of dive into it. But like I said, like we could talk here for like 8 hours straight, and then it wouldn't do you any bit of good until you're actually out in the woods. Okay, so trekking.
Right. Okay, so we'll move into trekking, and probably one of the most important things when we're trekking as far as equipment goes is shoes and socks. Because you want to keep your feet happy, or as happy as you can. So basically, you know, any tennis shoe is going to be probably fine. But something that's going to have a little traction, if it's going to be a little bit muddy, you know, or just you're going to be off trail a little bit, so having a little traction is always kind of a good thing. A couple other things that I look for in a shoe is kind of a wider toe box, because the longer you're on your feet expand, so they swell, especially for like multi-day races. Your feet just kind of pretty poopy. So that's another thing that I look for, but don't overthink. You know, if you've got some trail shoes, you don't need to go buy another pair of shoes. If you've got some running shoes,
Unless you're buying them from the Alpine shop, and then you do need to buy.
So yeah, we have quite a few collections of shoes. One thing I like is the speed laces, so you're not actually tying a shoe, so it just has a nice cinch on that. And socks. Basically, any sock that isn't a cotton sock is going to be an adequate sock. I like something that's thinner because it holds less water and it will dry faster. I always thought that a sock with a little more cushion was kind of comfy, but it really, at the end of the day, doesn't really help you out much, and then it just takes care, you know, synthetic or wool sock. And then I also have come to really enjoy the toe sock, just because I don't have any straight toes, and You start getting grit and all that other stuff in between your toes. It's a good friction spot that helps start blisters. So this has really helped improve my feet happiness through long endurance races. The other thing that we do is a foot lube. There's different things that you can use. You can use like Desitin, which is basically a baby butt cream. That works really well. You just slather your feet with that. It just keeps a little bit of lubrication between the toes to help from that blister forming. There's different products out there. One that we like to use is called Gurney Goo, which is basically a silicone type. And so the water, water more or less repels off of it versus it'll last for quite some time. Body Glide makes like a deodorant stick type stuff that you can rub on. It just kind of helps keep your foot lubricated and a little bit happier. That was something I was very slow in learning, is that you really, it's like, but man, you just get that sand that just kind of builds up, or that dust that builds up from the trail, and over time, all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's kind of warming between my toes. I wonder what's going on. And then all of a sudden you're like, this really hurts. And then you take your shoe off and it's like blisters or red, and you're like, yeah, this is not super good. So one of the things is that when you start feeling, I call those hot spots. So once you start feeling a hot spot, the best thing to do is stop sooner than later, and put some lube on it, or you always carry, I don't know where your bail-up bag is, but you always carry the mini rollable duct tape. Duct tape can fix a lot of things, and so you just wrap that area. I'll get get blisters in the back of my heels. You just take a piece of duct tape, slap it around the back, you can wrap it between the toes. That helps. The sooner you can prevent that, the less that damage is going to do.
And if you can kind of, ideally you'll have an opportunity before the race to do some longer runs or hikes. And when I say longer, I say like more than 7 miles. Because like the trekking that you'll be expected to do as part of the course is 5 to 10 miles. So you don't need to be doing like 50 Ks or anything to train for this race, although you're welcome to. But if you can just kind of get comfortable with how your feet are going to feel with 7 miles on them, or 10 miles on them, then that can kind of give you an idea of what to expect during the race. And if you have like perpetual hot spots or blister areas, like maybe on the back of your heel or like on your pinky toe or something, then you can kind of adapt to that by pre-taping your foot before the race even starts, so that you're like, I know it's just going to happen to me. I haven't quite figured out my ideal shoe-sock combination yet, so I'm just going to tape my toe where it gets hot before the race, and then I don't have to worry about it. So that's kind of an option too. And we're not going to talk about biking so much today, but just kind of consider too, if you're a person that uses trail shoes for the foot sections and then bike shoes for the biking sections, just kind of consider like how your socks fit in both of those shoes and stuff like that, so that you can change between the two. I would say like probably half of our racers use like mountain bike specific shoes, and the other half use the same shoes that they do trail running in. So whatever you're happiest with. We kind of flip between the two, like depending on the race. Like there's a race with a lot of transitions. Sometimes at night it's nice to wear the same shoe the whole time. So just don't go change the world just for the Castlewood 8-hour adventure race. Just do what you normally
do.
You do you. Okay, so then talk a little bit about shoes. One thing that's really important also is to think about your legs. You're going to be running through the woods at some point, hopefully. If things are going right, you're going to be going in the woods. You should consider wearing a full pant or full leg covering of some kind. If that means like a lightweight hiking pant, that's great. If that means like calf sleeves and capri tights, I love that combination. I use that quite a bit. if that means full tights that you wear for the whole race. Just think about, you want to protect your skin when you're running through the woods, just because there's briars out there, you might fall. Especially now there's ticks and poison ivy, stinging nettle, girl's favorite plant of all time.
Stinging nettle makes me cry.
So we kind of see it at every race that somebody shows up in like short shorts, and then they come back with short shorts and like really scratched up quads.
Looks like they. I mean, I was one of. I mean, your legs look like you ran through barbed wire.
Yeah.
They heal and recover, but yeah. So the weather's going to depend a bunch on what you might want to wear. But probably most common is just going to be a full length tight or a lightweight pair.
And then the other thing that you'll have the opportunity to carry during trekking sections is a pack. So we've conveniently set up in front of the Osprey wall of packs. But if you're using like a backpacking pack, that's probably a little overkill. Like anything more than 20-liter capacity is probably a little bit too big for our race, unless your role on the team is to carry everybody's crap, and then like 30 liter pack, like that'll be great for you. But something like, just a rule of thumb that I like to use for picking a pack for a certain race is you generally need like about a liter of storage capacity per hour-ish of the race. And I mean like storage capacity, not water bladders. So 8-hour race, 8-liter pack. Because we're a winter race, you kind of need to carry some more stuff, so like 8 liters is probably a little too small, but like I've done this race with a like trail running vest. That's pretty small, but at least the back compartment was really stretchy and it like carried my fleece and all that stuff. So Osprey makes some, this is not because they're sponsoring our race, like they actually do make really nice adventure racing packs.
For adventure racing, they're probably one of the best pack manufacturers out there. And one of the things you look for is, on your waist pouch, these big pockets. So this has pockets on both sides. So when you are racing, you're going to need food. If food is easy and accessible, you're going to eat it. If it's not easy and accessible, and all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, we'll just grab it. And all of a sudden you're 3 hours into the race and you're all going, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm not moving so fast anymore. I wonder what happened. Have you eaten anything lately? Maybe not. So you always want to have your food easily accessible. And if you don't, make sure your teammates can at least access it for you. So nothing wrong with having a teammate grabbing the back of your pack, get you some food, and pass it out to you, so you don't have to take your pack on and off. So every time you stop to open a pack, it's taking time. So whatever you can do to keep moving. So having some food here, having maybe a thing of duct tape, or just little things like that are accessible in the hip pouches is kind of nice. Then you'll want a hydration sleeve, so you can put a bladder in here, so you can carry some liquids, and just something simple and complicated. It doesn't need to be super big. This is probably, for most people, this is probably about the perfect size. This is an 11 liter.
With the Talon, right?
This is the Talon, and then this is the Talon 22. So between these two, these are probably the most two ideal packs.
Oh yeah, sweet spot.
Sweet spot. So these would be the two most packs that I would really recommend. It's in the Talon series, and this is a 22, and this is an 11.
And for the ladies, we have the Tempest. Hold on. So we get better colors than the guys.
Girls always get better colors.
Yeah, totally. Pink and teal, like you can't go wrong. So this is so Osprey is kind of a fun thing. when they have like brother and sister packs, they start with the same letter. So the male packs are the Talon, and the female packs are the Tempest. So they start with T. T for Tess. So this is the Tempest 20. This would be a great pack for the adventure race. This is the Tempest 9. A little smaller, but you can probably get away with it. Again, you've got these like really awesome, huge hip pockets. They're actually a little stretchy, so you can like cram one extra bar in there. A little pouch on the shoulder here that you can slide a gel or, your... Actually, I wouldn't put your clue sheet here because there's not a zipper and it could fall out. But maybe some food item you could put in here. They got the lid locker, which you can actually attach your helmet to the outside of your pack, which is super nice. The hydration bladder sleeve. And I really like these little small pockets that most of the Osprey packs have. Call them admin pockets. And they just put like your Sharpie, your like backup, if you have any backup little things, like maybe your water treatment if you're carrying that, or like any little thing that you don't think you're going to need, but if you need it, it's little, and now it's all organized in this little administrative pocket.
You don't carry your bike helmet with you the whole time, do you? Like that with your
Maybe.
bike?
Probably not.
Okay.
So you'll probably, anytime you're not biking, you'll be able to leave your bike helmet with your bike.
And shoes.
And
bike
shoes,
shoes.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. If you need to carry them for whatever reason, we'll tell you, but probably not. We don't have any like caving or anything that you need to wear a helmet for. Okay, so actually something new this year, we have these great coupon partnership with Osprey. So I'm going to hand these out. These kind of have one of them. Okay, so these coupons are for 20% off any Osprey pack under $200. So kind of a nice perk. That's actually one of the reasons that we wanted to move this class up to October, so that if you're needing to purchase any gear, you could purchase it in October and then train with it and not wait until like the last week in November to have a coupon to buy something. So we'll send this out to the rest of our crew. It's probably backwards, sorry, but that's the deal. 20% off Osprey pack under $200. Racers only. Like, this isn't for the entirety of St. Louis to come in here and use. Like, we'll be out of stock, but share it with your teammates. As long as they can bring this in. If you want to grab an extra one to bring, because I know we had a couple people leave, just grab an extra one. Yeah. You need more? So also on the coupon, we kind of took the liberty of printing the entire gear list. So if you have any other questions about things to carry, so this is something really common in every adventure race. There's going to be a gear list of things that you're required to carry throughout the whole race. It's always for safety, just to help educate people, because sometimes you have people coming from out of town and they're like, oh, I've never raced in British Columbia. I don't know what I need to carry. Well, here's your required gear list. So you need to carry ice axes and climbing helmets and stuff like that to complete our course safely. We're not quite that extreme, but we have a little bit more than normal just because we have paddling in December. So the way that we design our gear list is if you had the misfortune of flipping your canoe during the paddling section or sections, which has happened, like I think last year we got away with no flips. I think
we've only had tips. Well, one was witnessed, okay? So that was 3 or 4 years ago. One was witnessed. And there was another one that somebody thought they witnessed, but nobody admitted to it. So nobody admitted to it, then it didn't happen. So we don't know. But but for the most part, the water levels have been fairly manageable, and
Well, and one of the flips was right at the put in, and someone was like standing up to adjust their like equipment or something, and then like what happens when you stand up in a canoe? Like it's so we just put this list together to think, okay, if something happened and you got totally soaking wet in December, what would you need to make it out to assistance, the nearest road? You need rain pants and a rain jacket. So what you do, this is not trekking, but we're just gonna talk about it real quick. You try to dry off the clothes that you're wearing as best you can. That might mean like
taking them off and
taking them off, being
But-
naked on the side of the Merrimack, like, but for your own good. Just like get your clothes as dry as possible with your next to skin layer, and then put your rain pants on, put your raincoat on, put your hood on, and that'll help you retain all that body heat. And then your teammates are going to help you get to some sort of intersection where you can be picked up. Maybe if you start moving again, you'll decide like, actually, I'm a little cold, but I'm fine. This is probably what's going to happen is you're going to be a little
Yeah.
cold, but you'll be fine.
When you're cold, the best thing to do is keep moving or put more layers on. As soon as you stop, all of a sudden it just goes the opposite direction. So the biggest thing is if you have teammates that are really cold, the biggest thing to do is keep moving. So yeah, if you want to go through your you want to go through your bailout pay, or you didn't bring it? Okay, we'll go through a couple other things as we got some items on here that are pretty much good for any section that we talk to. We just kind of left home in a little bit of a hurry. So what questions do you have of us? We've been talking for over an hour now.
Yeah.
What questions do you have of us?
What about a compass? You guys went over the maps.
Yes.
Do you think we'll be using a compass at all?
Positive. Yes. So that's a really great question. I was like, I find it really hard to talk about a compass to a group without like I said, being in the woods to kind of help explain what I'm talking about. But yes, let's talk about compasses really quick. So this is the compass that I use. It's a thumb compass, and no one ever taught me to use one properly, so I wear it on my right hand. But like if you're an actual orienteer, you hold it with your non-dominant hand so that you can operate the punch card with your dominant hand. But like I said, I forgot to learn that, so this is how I do it. So the cool thing about a compass, the arrow always points north. Yeah. Magnetic north, which is a very important thing to notice. In Missouri, it's pretty great. I don't even think I wrote declination. Yeah. So basically, magnetic north and grid north are essentially the same in Missouri because of where we are in the magnetic grid. I guess I can't really explain it. But anyway, if you go to somewhere like Australia or New Zealand, the compasses are going to point to a magnetic north that's quite different from the mapped north or the grid north on their maps. But in Missouri, don't need to worry about it. Great place to learn how to use compass. So the important thing that how I use my compass is my north arrow is always going to point north. So you can understand where north is because there's a nice straight map or the arrow on the map, and then I use that to help orient the map to what I'm seeing. So you can kind of see here, I'm using this. See, this is why I don't like teaching because you have to be flat, but you can all gather around if you want. So here the arrow's pointing north. I'm going to line that up to the north arrow on the map, and then if I hold this like this and I look straight ahead, this little part of the map should be, if I know where I am, should be right in front of me. So then how I use it, if I need to go a new direction, like say I need to go that way, I'm going to turn around like this, but then keep the map oriented. So now what I'm looking at in front of me is going to match what's in front of me on the map. Does that kind of make sense? So it's really important. Yeah, I totally went off the screen there. So it's really important to make sure that your map is oriented correctly to where your compass is pointing north. That's how I can best explain it. It's really tricky to remember, like when you're kind of wiggling along, like maybe following a creek, you're going to be wanting to adjust your map the whole time that you're traveling to make sure that your map north is always orienting with your compass north. Does that kind of make sense? So like then let's talk about paddling on the big USGS map that you guys have. You can see that river down there kind of goes southeast for a little bit, and then it makes a hard turn, and it goes kind of northeast for a little bit, then it goes almost straight north, then makes another hook and goes around. So the whole time that you're paddling that, like just put yourself out in the map, you're going to be wanting to kind of turn your map with your compass as you make all those turns so that you can keep track of what's a right turn and what's a left turn, what the river is doing in front of you. Does that kind of make sense? So that's the best way that I use my compass, and I can help educate you in a classroom. But that's another good reason to either come to one of our sessions in November, because we can actually go point to point and illustrate how to use a compass with your map and navigate through the woods. So there's our 2 sessions in November, but then St. Louis Orienteering Club has a session that meet in October at Castlewood. It's a meet and it's a race, but the thing about orienteering is that it's a super small sport, and so like anyone that shows up and is like, I've never done this before, but I'd really like someone to explain like how to do this, people are like, yes, like someone came to our event. So like just, it's a meet and it's a race, yeah, there's timing involved, but it's not like, oh, professionals only, like I can't go because I'm a beginner. Like total opposite. Like beginners are welcome, there's specific beginner courses that are easier than the super hard courses, so it's like just, you need to try it in the field. Does that kind of help? Yeah. Sort of.
What dates are those in November?
Let's see, I believe the 9th,
It's your heritage.
and then 9 plus 14, the 23rd. 9th and the 23rd. And then the SLOC meet, St. Louis Orienteering Club meet, I believe is October 26th at Castlewood.
And is that a night race?
It might be. I don't know. I think it's during.
What's your website?
Oh, I don't even know what it is. St. Louis Orienteering Club on Facebook. That's how I find my information.
I was looking at those, I think it might be a night race.
Oh,
I
okay.
think it is. They were talking about it at one of the last events they did. There's kind of like a little Halloween theme to it.
Even better. You can orienteer at night. Like you can orienteer blindfold during the day. So easy. Okay, what other questions as we're wrapped? Good? Got it? Okay. So our next session is going to be about biking and teamwork, pretty sure. Next Monday at 7 o'clock. We'll be here, we might be in the bike shop. It's just kind of like what is best for the floor, but we'll be here at Alpine Shop Kirkwood. We'll be also on Facebook Live. Let's see. Okay. There's some comments there, but they're like not questions, so we're okay.
They're making fun of me.
Yeah, and then I'll send out a post-class email to everyone who's on the clipboard here. Is everyone on the clipboard? And it'll have just a couple links to further explain what we talked about today. UTM plotting, a little bit of mapping, kind of interpretation assistance. And then the other great resource, if I do say so myself, is actually there's 2 things. The AR101 page that you guys used to sign up for this class, it has the links to our videos from last year, 2018, and 2017. So if you feel like you want to relive today but not exact copy, you can go to 2018 video or the 2017 video. And then we also have the results from the race 2018, 17, 16, 15, with all of the maps that we used, the clue sheets that we used, like everything that we gave the racers is on the Off-Road Racing League results page for that race. So if you wanted to pull up the clue sheet for any of the maps that you can take those home. If you want to pull up the clue sheet from that year's race, you can kind of get to understand like, oh, checkpoint number 1 was Hilltop. Like, let me practice if I can plot it. Like, there's all of that stuff is out there for you, just a reference. Because like the first race that I did was, I mean, this one, but I just like getting into it, I couldn't find like, there was like maybe 2 adventure racing race reports out in like blogland that I could find. Like, there's no maps. I just couldn't, like, I knew I was excited to do it, but I didn't really know like what to be excited for. So we're just trying to like everything that we use during the race to push it out there in the interwebs so that if you want to look at it before you can. Okay, so we'll hang out here a little bit. The shop closes at 9, so like not too long to shop, but yeah, we'll just hang out and then hopefully see you next week.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.